You're listening to the Create What You Speak podcast, where I invite you to come along with me as we shape our own reality together. My intention is to bring out the magic in you. Now let's get started.
Run away from the humdrum. We'll go to a place that is safe from greed, anger, and boredom. We'll dance and sing till sundown and feast with abandon. We'll sleep when the morning comes and we'll rise by the sound of the bird song.
My name is Sloan Fremont, and today I'm going to talk to you about selling you on you.
Feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you. Only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Drench yourself in words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten.
Welcome to the Create What You Speak podcast. It's a new month, and this week we're starting off the month with an interview with one of my new favorite people, Connie Whitman. I recently met Connie and did an interview for her show, and we had so much fun. I wanted to bring her back on my show so we could continue the conversation. So that's what we're going to do this week, and our topic is selling you on you. So I'm just going to jump right in because I know, Connie, you and I we could talk all afternoon, but I'm just going to jump right in here. I'm going to start by telling you just a little bit about Connie. She's known for her high energy, passionate, and enthusiastic approach to teaching and coaching. Connie helps ambitious business owners, leaders, and sales teams build powerhouse organizations to achieve wildly outrageous goals. An international speaker, podcast host, and influencer, Connie's inspired teaching and transformational tools and content ensure business owners and salespeople grow their revenue streams through enhanced internal and external communication skills while developing strong relationship-based cultures. Connie is a CEO of Whitman & Associates, LLC, and for the past 2 decades, she and her signature 7-step sales process has helped thousands of salespeople grow their business to high 6-figure incomes. She's a trusted strategic partner, building lasting relationships with innovative business owners, thought leaders, and organizations worldwide. And as a podcast host, Connie is thrilled to share her inspiring content on her weekly show called Enlightenment of Change. And that is a free resource for professionals looking to fast track their career. So Connie, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks, Sloan. I'm so excited to be here. As you were reading that, I was thinking, boy, can I hire Connie Whitman?
I know, right? I mean, it's so impressive. So let's start there. Tell the audience just a little bit about you, who you are, the kind of work that you do, and really what led you down that path.
Yeah, so it's funny because, 20 years in business, but I'm going to really show my age now. So I've been in financial sales for 38 years. So sales is just kind of my world. And it was funny when I started my career, again, I got my college degree. I was going for my MBA at night in finance, right? I think it's C numbers. And I went back and got my licenses. In the United States, you need like a Series 7 license and health and life and all that stuff. So I did. I went back and got it. And that first time sitting at a kitchen table with the client, it was a husband and wife, and they had little ones at home, and their limited ability to manage cash flow and finances, and because they didn't have MBAs in finance, right? Which I totally understood. And I was sold. I thought, wow, this is where I'm needed. And because I was raised in a very ethical household, that I felt my job at that moment in my early 20s, that I was here to teach people how to save and how to manage their money, and really how to protect, in this case, kids and your assets. And really, our children are our biggest asset. And I was hooked. And that was, 38 years ago. And I never looked back. I love what I do.
And I can tell the enthusiasm in your voice and just the excitement. I can definitely tell. So tell us a little bit about where you are today with, being an expert in communication in what you do and in helping salespeople. Why do you think communication is really, so important for everyone, especially in the business world and in sales and sales leadership?
Yeah, and it's funny because really, when you think about communication, it's at the core of all human interaction. It doesn't necessarily have to be sales. It doesn't matter what your job is. If you can't communicate with your peers or your bosses, whoever you report to, or if you're a boss, how are you communicating with your team? it matters. And unfortunately, I think the most recent statistic was that the average attention span of an adult, right, is about 6 seconds. So what happens when we communicate, we literally take turns talking at each other instead of trying to understand where a person that I'm having a conversation with, like, where are they coming from? We don't
Right.
take time. We just, while you're talking, right, Sloan, I'm thinking, oh, when she shuts up, I'm going to say blah, 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 right? We talk at each other, which is kind of a tragic situation, because as soon as we dig in just a little deeper and really go into that listening communication mode of being interested, let's just say that, being interested,
Yeah.
magic happens, right? And work becomes more fun and work becomes easier and we get projects done faster. And in sales, we communicate more effectively with the customer. So we fully understand who they are. So we don't push a product. We recommend the best product or service that I'm offering or you're offering to that client. It becomes very special, very customized, and really from a place of care versus I need to make money or I need to make the sale. Big difference in
Right.
that approach.
Right. And the intention behind it, right? Like, what are you bringing what energy are you bringing? And that's one of the reasons why I was excited, that we got to talk again today, because even if you're not in sales, right, all the things that we're going to talk about today, they really can apply to any area of your life. And, I'm not a salesperson. I remember trying it when I was younger, and I spent so much of my time talking myself out of why it wasn't going to work or why I couldn't do it, or, and then I would go in to, meet with the potential customer, or because I was in finance as well for a long time, and then did some various other roles. And, I would go in and meet with the customer. And by the time I had talked myself out of it, I went in and I was so closed off. My communication was just, I just want to hurry up and get out of here, because I've told myself this story that, this is how it's going to go, or this is what it is, when really all of that, again, that's what they were. They were just stories. I was making it all up.
But don't we do that in life about
Oh, for
everything?
sure.
Right?
Sure.
I call it, you're younger than me. I call it the record player that's very
Yeah.
grooved in our head, meaning it
Yeah.
repeats over and over again. We all have it. And yeah, sales, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what business you're in. We all have those limiting beliefs. That's really what they are. We tell ourselves those stories. We believe our own crap
Right,
instead
we
of
do.
trying to move through and thinking, hey, wait a minute, I have a lot to offer this client. I'm excited to share with them how I can help them save money or how I can make something easier for them, save them time in some way. No, we don't we come with, oh my God, I feel icky, I feel sleazy. Well, if the customer needs what you're offering, why is it sleazy or icky?
Right.
Right? You're helping them.
Exactly. And when you talk about communication in that way, when if you're coming at something with that vibe or that feeling of, I feel bad or wrong in doing it, then the person is going to pick up on that. They're going to get that from you and immediately be turned away, right? And we often, I think, tell ourselves the stories, oh, there must be something wrong with me, or I did something wrong, or that person doesn't like me, or we're too busy, like you're saying, talking at each other. And while we're talking at each other, we're making up stories. We're deciding this or we're deciding that, instead of just coming to the table, being open and ready to listen or to move, to follow the flow of how the interaction is, rather than coming in with this, this is how it's got to go kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's funny. Now, when I started, right, you felt my enthusiasm
I did.
sitting at that kitchen table and finding that those people truly needed me. And I look at sales, my job is to educate the client or the customer about something they don't know. So every time and now I deal with corporate clients and I deal with businesses and sales teams, right? That's, I'm not sitting at the kitchen table anymore, obviously, 38 years later. So 20 years when I started my company, for me, it was the same thing. I met with my corporate client and I sat there and I was like, tell me what's going on. What are you
Right.
trying to accomplish? What's your end game? And where there's a gap, right? You're here, you want to be, 10 feet ahead of you. How do
Yep.
we get there? I'm the missing link. So let me educate you how we can do that. So for me, sales is nothing more than educating your client about something they didn't know before they met you. So now when I just said that, did that feel icky, or did that feel like, wow, yeah, talk to me, help me, right?
Exactly. Yes, the second one, obviously, the latter.
Yeah.
It felt more like, oh, this person's here to help me, or you know what I mean. I think we also tend to think that we need to know everything.
Mhm.
Right. And so when somebody is ready to help us and genuinely wants to help us, I think sometimes we feel, I don't know, almost afraid to accept that help or something like we should. I don't know. I've noticed that in myself. Sometimes I find it's hard for me to accept help. But when you have somebody willing and has is bringing what you need to the table, right? There's nothing icky or bad about that.
Yeah, and it's funny. You're right. I think people, humans, we think we can do everything. Or again, that self-talk. We should be able to do everything. I'm
Yep.
intelligent. Why should I get help? That makes me look stupid. That makes me look weak. It really doesn't. For me, just as a business owner, for 20 years, at some point, you have to, because I'm a control freak too, Sloan. But
No,
I
same.
have. Yeah, I know, right? It's if I could control the weather, oh boy, I would love to wield that magic wand, right? I'm a
Right.
control freak. I know it. But here's the thing. As a business owner, if I try to control and do everything like social media, web design, that is so not my world.
Mhm.
I could do it, but it would take me a year to figure out what to do, where I could hire someone for a couple of grand and they could get it up and running in a week. So by us defaulting to that, well, I could do it myself. I shouldn't need help. That makes me look weak. The weakness is not allowing people to help you with their superpowers and expertise and make everything. And to me, life is hard enough, or maybe we make it hard on
Yeah.
ourselves.
Mhm.
So if you allow people into your orbit that you need, whatever that is for you right now, all of a sudden there's a little bit of ease in your life because you don't have to worry about something that you don't know or don't know how to do, and to do the research and figure it out. Why bother? Hire
Right.
someone.
Right. Why have that? Yeah, that energetic drain. It's gonna in the almost like I know I need to do this, but I don't want to kind of thing. Don't force yourself to do the things that you don't want to do. Right? Hire somebody. Exactly.
Absolutely. When I started my business, I had to do a lot of stuff myself.
Right.
But there were still things I had to hire people to do because it was beyond my capacity for what needed to be done, especially on the technology side.
Right.
I was young. I was 38, 39 when I started my business. Well, now at 58, I know that I lack the ease that the technology is beyond me, right? It's not. Let me rephrase. It's not beyond me, but I don't want to figure out how to do the back end of WordPress. Like,
Right.
it's in my eyes. I want to talk to people and be out and about, and now I'm
Right.
doing a lot of virtual networking. That's my superpower. Please don't put me at a computer to do programming. Pins in my eyes.
Right. There's no value. I say this about parallel parking. I'm 42 years old and I've never learned how to do it, and I don't want to. I just don't care to learn. Right. So it's like the same thing. There's no value there. Right. So I totally get that. So let's talk a little bit more about the clients that you've worked with over the years and the sales teams that you've worked with, and what do you think some of their biggest obstacles, or what have you seen that you've really helped people overcome over the years?
It's interesting. So from a sales perspective, I'm going to say follow up, right? That's the technical piece of the process that most sales are made in the 5th to 12th touch to that client or follow up with the client. Most people stop at the 4th one, and only about 5% of sales are made with that 1 through 4th touch. As soon as you hit the 5th through the 12th, it jumps to 80%. So what happens though, really what happens to people is they don't get to that 5th point because the self-talk jumps in.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a pain in their neck. They're going to think I'm a pain. They're going to, oh my God, they're going to put me on ignore. And the truth of the matter is, because we have no attention span, right? That 6-second attention span, we need to hear things 5 to 12 times.
Right.
And then say the same thing, the exact same sentence to me. And the 5th time I'll be like, I read something about that. Maybe we should do that. Meanwhile, you mentioned it 4 other times.
Right.
I didn't tune into it. So we think we're being pushy when really humans, because of that lack of attention span, we really do need to hear it multiple times. So that's the biggest, I think the biggest in the flow of sales. That's where I see the biggest obstacle with my clients, though. And when I teach at these corporate clients or my sales teams, if I'm doing digital, it doesn't matter if I'm live or digital. The biggest thing I see is fear. People are afraid of being rejected. And it's so funny because sales isn't, if somebody objects to what you're offering, doesn't mean they don't like you. It just means, hey, that's not the right time for me right now. But look at COVID, right? Life changes like in a split second. So if the customer says, no, I don't need that right now, 6 months from now, something might shift in their world, their business, their life, that now they need you.
Right.
And you're doing that diligent follow-up, all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I'm so glad you called me. Meanwhile, most people don't do that because what if? And the what ifs to me is ridiculous, because what if they want you?
Right. Why do we always assume the worst, right? We always assume the negative outcome, but what if they want you, right? And, as I was jotting a few notes down about this, when you were talking about both the sales, individual sales, and then your corporate clients. So follow up and fear are the two, themes that you're seeing. And both of those things, it's not like, somebody's not succeeding because, let's say, they don't have the right technology, or they don't have I don't know, the only two things stopping us are ourselves right here, follow up and fear. And so how in our theme, this week on the show is selling you on you. So how can we start to sell ourselves on ourselves? How do we move past this follow up, the fear of the follow up, or the fear of the fear? Right.
That's exactly right. We put our own roadblocks in front of us. So it's interesting. I had a digital class this week, and one of the young men, we were doing role plays, right, virtually. It was great. And at the end, as a coach, I always want to start with something that's positive. So the first question I'll ask the employee or the person in the training room, in the training class, in this case digitally, I said to him, what do you think you did well? And this is interesting too, Sloan, because most people go, I don't know. Did I do this?
Did I do anything well? Right.
Exactly right. So we put ourselves down, and we're really good at that. And so what I say to people, if you were coaching yourself, what would you say to the employee that's in front of you, right? Employee in front of you. What would you say you think they did well? So there's one young man at the end, I gave my feedback. I think you did this really well. And this is what you need to work on, right? And he was very, very appreciative. And at the end, I said to him, I'm going to give everybody their superpower today. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, everybody brings something special and wonderful to the table. We all have superpowers. We often don't know what they are. So this young man, I said to him, your superpower is that you are so friendly and so giving and so caring that from the minute you open your mouth with the client, they can't help but feel that you're coming from this place of care. So he stopped and he goes, wow, I have a superpower. Well, fast forward that end of the day, he sent me an email and he said, by the way, I can't thank you enough. I have a superpower. It was freaking adorable, Sloan. And he had to do a meeting with his team, people who reported to him. And he goes, and my discussion to teach whatever he was teaching in his coaching session, he goes, I'm going to identify and let everybody know what their superpower is, because we don't identify that. And he wrote me this long thank you email for turning that switch on, that we all have a superpower. And to me, I thought, and you know what the funniest thing was? In the class, don't ask me why, I don't know why, but this class, I go, I'm going to tell everybody what your superpowers are today. They were like, oh, okay, that sounds really good.
Right.
Every one of them at the ends, they were like, oh, I do have that superpower. Like I identified something that they never thought was there until I said it. It was always there. I just helped them kind of peel it back and see it. It was just an awesome experience. It was just this week this happened.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's like you woke them up to themselves, right? Like you're saying, it was always there. They just, for whatever reason, didn't see it. Or it's just like we said, like when you ask the question, what do you think you did well? Most people maybe might say one thing, like you're saying, him haw around. But I on the other side of that, what'd you do bad? Boom, boom, boom. They could list off 20 things in 2 seconds,
Absolutely. That's so true.
And so as you're working with these teams, I know you recently wrote a book, The Easy Sales Process, which is a 7-step sales success formula that you have. So do these kinds of things go into that when you in the book and how you work with business owners and salespeople?
Yes. So the book, and by the way, it actually hit. So I'm going to brag a little bit. And usually
I know. I was going to say that was my next thing, but go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, can I share? that
Yeah, no, that was my next thing I was going to say, but yes, go for it.
it became a number one, not only in the US, number one bestseller, but internationally in 20 categories. So
So awesome.
yes, and here's why. That I mean, yes, that's great. It's a great credential and all of that. But for me, that people resonated with
Right.
with the book, and it's when I tell you guys, your listener, it's like an 80-page book. So I believe in simple. Simple wins the game. When we make things too complicated, we're like, oh, this is too hard. I can't do it.
Right.
When you keep things easy peasy, right? Simple, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I could do that. So the book, the way I have it set up, it's I go through the 7 steps, right, of my sales process that I've used successfully for 38 years, so I know it works.
Right.
But more importantly, I share stories with every chapter of the mistakes I made. And now, like, you got to laugh at it, right? That you did this. Some of the horror stories of different bosses I've had through sales and how they wanted me to force a sale on a client. But I live and work I'm in New Jersey. Now I'm more global, but initially, in my 20s and 30s, I worked and lived in the same kind of same town, same county in the United States, in New Jersey. It's a county. Anyway, I would see people at like ShopRite or Pathmark. So it's my reputation out there.
Right.
So when these bosses that were morons would say, well, we have this new product and you need to sell 10 of them. And I would say, well, yeah, if the clients walk in that it's a good fit for, absolutely. But if they're not, don't you tell me what I have to sell. My job is to help the client, not push your product. And I used to get, because I'm a little verbal, when you tell me to do something I know is wrong ethically, I will verbally tell you. So, in that case, I would kind of not mouth. I was never fresh. I'm always a respectful person, but I let them know, no, this is my reputation. I'm not going to give you the opportunity to tarnish that because you're putting pressure on me. It's ridiculous.
Right. To meet some quotas. I mean, and staying in our own integrity in anything is so important, but especially, in sales where, like you're saying, your reputation is what you have, right? Anybody who, works with you, and then word of mouth is so powerful to be able to tell our friends when oh my God, I got this. I love it. It works so well. You guys all need to get this, that kind of stuff. That's so, and I remember as you were saying that when I was younger and I was I did home loans and for a period of time. And it was a similar situation. You need to get this many people, and they would get so mad at me because I would do the same thing as you, sit at the table with them and I would go through their finances with them. I'd be like, just because the computer says you should be able to get this much, get a loan for this much, that's not, we need to really take a look at this. And they would get so mad at me. They're like, you can't do that. You can't do that with them. And I'm like, well, nobody else is doing it. Like, these people, they don't know, and so, and of course, everybody was so appreciative and, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I can totally relate to that. And that feeling of, that's the icky feeling that we're talking about, right?
Yes. And it's funny. I think I start the book in the introduction, and it could be one of the first sentences. And I start by saying, if you're not selling from a place of love, and then I put ... Yes, you're all saying, Connie, you're out of your mind. Love and sales, like, what do they have in common? And I said, if you're not selling from love, you're doing it wrong. And that's the reality. I always felt that no matter who the client was in front of me, if that was my mom, dad, grandparent, my sibling, right, a good friend of mine, how would I want someone to treat them and handle them? Well, that's how I treat every client, because you're always coming from a place of love and care. So if you're doing that, it's not about the sale, it's about the person. And here's the funny thing with that. First of all, it feels good, right? So that's a wonderful thing. The other thing is, people feel the difference. The client feels the difference in that authentic, caring, loving kind of vibration, that all of a sudden they refer all their family and friends to me.
I know, right?
Yes. So with zero effort, when I say zero effort, because for me, it's just I'm being me, goofy, I joke around, right? I am who I am, but I come from this place of love and care. So now all their family and friends, they're inviting me to birthdays. And, that's a great feeling when you become part of a family because you did the right thing for them. And I made more money. I was always, because I'm competitive too. That's my nature. So I was always like number one in sales in any position I had. And people would be like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. People send me people. I get referrals, right? So it becomes an easy process.
Right. Because you're you. You're just
'Cause I'm
showing
me.
up as you.
Yep.
That was my theme this year for 2020 before before any of us knew what 2020 had in store. That was my theme. Free to show up to be myself. No longer have this like mask on or feeling like I have to do this because they told me to kind of thing, right? And when you do that, everything unfolds so much easier because you're not up against the resistance of not wanting to do what the boss is trying to force you to do, or not trying to make some sale that you don't even agree with, or the customer doesn't need, right? It just completely changes our energy when we show up authentically.
It's true. The other thing too, Sloan, that I think is important, and I learned this so early on in my career, which I've used, for 38 years now. There's different what they call communication models out there, or behavioral models. And I actually created one. I have a second business with a partner, and she came up through academia, dean of university and all of that. And I came up through this corporate, kind of, growing through the corporate environment. And we both are certified in two different behavioral models. And we didn't like them because two things. One, you could cheat on the assessment so that it gives you a false reading almost, because it's
Right.
like how I want to be. So that's how I
Yeah.
answer. Like that,
Yeah.
that makes you who you're not, right? Which is crazy.
Right.
And the other thing that, like a Myers-Briggs, I don't know if you've ever had that, like you come out, you're an
Yeah.
EINJ.
Yeah.
Well, a week after you go through the training, you're like, what was I again? What was the
Right.
E? And DISC, I'm certified in DISC, which they're both phenomenal models. Anybody listening, they're brilliant, okay? But in training, when I use DISC, through my career, I'd say to someone, oh, you're an ID. And then a week later, they'd be like, what was I again, Connie? They don't know what it means. So my partner and I created this assessment that you have to rank it. So it's much harder to fudge the results. And we labeled things like you could be a heartfelt advocate, or a stimulating motivator, or an innovative organizer, or a precise assessor. Now, don't they sound so much better than you're an ID or you're an EINJ, right?
Yes. And that's assigning like the superpower, like you talked about before, right? Like I'm going to remember that. And that feels good. That's going to motivate me.
And so here's the cool thing. You identify your superpower. You also get a ranking. So you know what your lowest score is, which is kind of a blind spot, right? So if you have blind spots and we don't know about them, we kind of make the same mistakes over and over and over again. So as soon as you identify a blind spot, a couple of things. You either work on it, which sometimes is hard because it's not a natural skill, but that doesn't mean you can't develop it. Or you surround yourself with people who have that superpower, so that when like for me, I am not good at editing. I'm a big picture person, right? And my husband is the polar opposite of me. So before I send an important email, or like when I create manuals, I send them to him and I say, rip it apart grammatically and any typos, because I know that I'm not good with detail and he is. So you surround yourself and you ask people to help you that have that superpower, because I'm lacking in it. And again, I don't beat myself up for it. It is what it is. I identify it and I put people in place that can help and support me with that. So that's the cool thing about that model.
And is that available on your website?
Yes, and it's free.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to link to your website at the in the show notes, so the listeners will be able to. But I want to get back to the book really quick and talk about. Can you briefly talk about? So it's called Easy Sales Process. It's a 7-step sales to success. Can you briefly touch on those 7 steps for us?
Sure. And the other one, we were talking about follow-up. That's the 7th step. The other one is the first step, which is preparation. Most people do not have great organizational skills. So they're jumping into, and this is not just sales, guys. This is anything. We jump and we think, yeah, I'll wing it. I'll just do it on the fly.
Right.
If you take the time to prepare and organize and like your to-do list daily, whatever it might be, you actually get more production because you're going in a thoughtful manner instead of this helter-skelter. So one is preparation. Step 2 is building rapport. My communication style assessment, the free one, it's called the CSA, communication style assessment. That helps us build rapport. So Sloan, if I know you speak or think differently than me, like let's say you're like my husband, much slower paced and more methodical in your thinking. Well, if you're my client, I'm going to slow my pace down. I'm going to ask real logical questions and I'm not going to jump around on you. I have to modify. So what happens, the client's like this chick gets me.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm the opposite of them. I just know their model, their style, and I modify accordingly. So it creates more harmonious conversations. And again, this isn't just sales. You can use it with your family members, your kids, your aunts, your uncles, friends. And what happens is you have another superpower that you could develop. So it's kind of a cool tool.
Mm-hmm.
Third step is the open-ended questions that let the customer know that I'm asking you this and what's in it for them. So it's a benefit-driven, open-ended question. Step 4 is listening, because we don't listen, right? I mentioned that before.
Right.
Step 5 is presenting your solution based on all of the information the client gave you. So if you do really well with the questions and the listening, it's like, a beam of light from the sky coming down and saying, ta-da, like this is what your customer needs.
Right.
So when you go to present it, it becomes super obvious. And then step 6 is simply ask for the business. You went through this process. If it's a good fit, ask for the business. If you need to dig a little more, sometimes the next step isn't asking for the business, but asking for a follow-up appointment. So I call that confirming the relationship, right? Moving it forward, whether it's making the sale or making another appointment. And then step 7 is the follow-up. So see, it's such a simple process, but it works. It works every time.
Well, and that's, you're talking about, you're closing the loop, right, on the whole thing. Like you start with the planning. I talk about this, I'm thinking about it as you're talking about this, and like, I do more project management based work on, more technology projects. And so this kind of stuff that you're talking about, planning your work, like making sure, listening, right. And saying, talking, presenting back to the customer or the potential customer, what they said, all of this kind of stuff. I mean, this can be used even if you're not in sales. And it even seems to me like conflict resolution, like in like relationships, for example, right? Again, I think we're also focused, like you said at the beginning, at talking at each other, and we want to be sure that we're heard, because we're so afraid we're not going to be heard, right? And I think that's the root of why a lot of us do that, because we're so afraid that we're going to be overlooked, or like that our opinion doesn't matter or count. And when we actually slow down a minute and like take a minute and chill out, right? It's like we start to. It's not as. I don't know. I guess I feel like when I do that, I'm not as hyped up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a smoother interaction. So I'm going to make you laugh. So really quick, because I know we're going to be out of time in a few minutes, but my husband and I literally are polar opposites in our behavioral model, right? So I'm fast paced, big picture. He's much slower paced, much more thoughtful. I have to think about empathy. He's very empathetic naturally, right? So we're opposite. So, and I'll just make this really brief. When I never grew up with animals, he did. So for one of his birthday, before I had kids, this is 20 something years ago, he really wanted a lovebird. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I have very curly hair. So every time I have been in the presence of a bird, they fly and they land in my hair because they think it's a nest, right? So I swear to God, Sloan, this is a true story. Even clients, I've gone in their house and they go, "Oh, the bird's wings are clipped." And I think, all right, the bird will fly because it wants my hair, right? So I know, thanks for laughing, right? And so I'm a little nervous around birds. So my friend has had birds her whole life. So she says, "I'll come with you. We'll go to the store. We'll buy the bird." She would get it in a cage for me. Well, because I moved so fast. So we went to the store. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's a pretty one. Let's get that." But I moved so fast. I bought a one-legged bird, Sloan. I swear to God.
Oh my gosh.
To God, that's the truth. It lasted about a year, the little bird. He didn't tip over, so I think he knew how to, he was used to the one leg. Yeah, it's very cute. But anyway, fast forward now, whenever I'm moving fast, like we're buying a car or buying a washing machine, something that's a little costly. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. Let's buy it. Consumer Report rated it. I'm like, yeah. All my husband has to say to me, "Are we buying another one-legged bird?" And I laugh and I go, okay. Research, and you let me know what we should do. In other words, all he has to say is this another one-legged bird? And I immediately stop and I think, you're moving too fast. Let him do the research. He doesn't mind doing the research. And I retract. I stop because the reality is if he didn't do that, or I didn't have a partner who did that, I would be wasting a lot of time and money. So that's the beauty of having a different behavioral model or surrounding yourself with people that are different than you, because then you never have a blind spot.
Exactly. And when you were talking about blind, and I love that story. That's so funny and it's so cute.
Yeah.
But I can see that as well. I can see, I totally get what you're saying. Cause I'm like you, I'm the, okay, yeah, come on, let's go. Let's do it. And, when you're talking about, like we talked about throughout the show about needing help or wanting help and then not wanting to ask for it. But if we have our own, everybody has blind spots in anything and everything, right? And so without other people's insight or opinions or, even their view on things, we're never going to be able to see those and move past them. So I love that story because I can see that it immediately brings you back.
Yes.
Immediately.
And another cool thing is people ask me, oh, are all your friends like you? And I had never been, this was recently, and I really had never thought about it. And when I thought about it, I said, no, it was such a revelation to me. I said, no, most of my friends are opposite me. And
Right.
I'm one that I self-reflect a lot because I think you understand yourself better and then you can move forward with things because then fear doesn't hit you as hard and, all of those limiting beliefs that we have. So I'm always self-reflecting. And when I thought about why, and it's not like I think about, oh, you have a different style. I should like you, right? You should be in my orbit.
Right.
That doesn't enter my thought process. I crave what people that are different than me, I crave that skill or superpower because I don't have it. So I become fascinated because they help me see things that I would never see with my filter because I'm 50,000 feet up in the air, right? I don't get into the weeds. So I surround myself with people that are different than me because they call me out and they make me see things I would never see. So that's kind of a fascinating thought, that people should look at as well.
No, I agree because it's the same. I was actually just talking with a friend about this yesterday about dating apps because she was talking about dating and she was saying about how, sometimes people will put on their little bio about, let's say a political party, like no this party or no that party. And I remember I have seen that too in the past. And I remember thinking, you're so narrow-minded that you only want a carbon copy of yourself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so I totally get that. And I think, that's one of the reasons as humans, why that's part of being a human, right? Is being able to experience that.
But the thing is, once you identify that, your life becomes richer because you're taking your blindfolds off and just seeing a bigger perspective of whatever the situation is. So what happens is I think we have a better tap of what reality is. As soon as you can see both sides of the coin, I think that's where we need to get as humans. Yeah. Because my way isn't always, I think my way is always right, but that doesn't mean my way is always right.
Right. And both, in anything and, both sides of the coin, both everyone's opinions are valid, right? You don't have to agree with it. No, we don't. And that's part of being a human. We can have our own opinion and have our own, whatever works for us, but we have to be able to let the other person have theirs too. Right. And, yeah, I think that would be a good message for today, especially throughout the world. But okay, so I want to go back to the book because I wanted to ask you something specifically about this. So again, congratulations on it being number one. I'm excited for you, and that's just so exciting. But I was curious, as as you go, you've been through your career, you started your own business, you wrote the book, you've developed a model, things that worked. You obviously again are very passionate about this. What did you do to sell you on you? Like, what did you do for you that got you to where you are?
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the reality. I know people will say, well, my corporate persona or my business persona, and I only know how to be me, Sloan. So no matter whether I'm at work or I'm at home, I say the same goofy things. I use the same silly jokes. I am me. So I think that, and it's funny because I never realized I I never realized I did it because I didn't think about it. All I know how to do is be me. So I'm authentic, I'm real, I'm approachable. I try not to judge people so I can just see who people are and learn from them. And I think that's another thing. Why people resonate with me, because I am open-minded and I love learning. So I'm always so curious, like, tell me about yourself. What made you pick that line of work? But I'm genuinely interested. So
Right.
I think that love of learning and just me being me and not trying to be something I'm not, it works for me. And I just think that's why people resonate with me. And I truly think that's why people buy from me over and over again. My clients, I've had one client for 15 years. Just because they trust me. So that I think is another thing. You sell you on you. I think you have to be authentic. And I know that word is overused lately, but be you. Just be you and be okay with that.
Right.
Other
Right.
thing, yeah, and be okay with that. Number one, I'm also super respectful. I will never, ever be condescending or rude. Even if someone's screaming at me, I will remain calm and respectful because you never know what day that person is having.
Right.
I'm not mad at you. They just might have had a really bad day. So I'm me, I'm authentic, I'm respectful. If I had to pick a word to describe me, it probably would be respectful. And I'm not afraid to be goofy and human. And so even in my corporate world, I'm me. I'm just me.
And again, that was my theme this year: show up to fully be me. And
Yeah.
I don't think I had ever done that, honestly.
And you know what's funny? When you try to put on airs like, oh, I'm corporate and unprofessional,
Yeah.
people see through it. And I'll give you a tangible example, right? No matter who I talk to on the phone. So when you do, like, if I was asking to speak to you, hey, may I speak to Sloan? And you say speaking, I'll say, hey, Sloan, how you doing? Right? I'm a how you doing kind of chick because I'm professional, but I'm comfortable. Where other people will be like, how are you today? I don't talk, right? You see what I'm saying? Because, well, that's more
Robotic. Yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'm how you doing? So
Right.
again, be professional, but be you without being, like I wouldn't get on the phone and say sup, sup, sup. Like that would be rude to me, right? That would be a little weird. But you get
Well, and it's not you either, right?
so not me. That's so not me. So,
Right.
watch the slang, but I think you could still be you and comfortable. And what happens is people become comfortable with you super quick.
Right, because you're real and they can pick up on that. And I think, yeah, we could talk for hours on this. So, and I know I'm going to get ready and close this out here. I want to, Connie picked some songs for this week. So I want to be able to talk through that really quick. And I want to go through her contact information real quick. But before we wrap up, can you give our listeners one sales tip they can do to improve a sales situation that they might be faced with today?
Yeah, I would say, well, two, preparation. Do not wing it. You're shooting yourself in the foot and you're losing that opportunity because you can't go back, right? Once you blow it, you blow it. So make sure you're very well prepared and organized. And the other one is please follow up that 5th to 12th time. And when I say follow up, it could be quarterly. I'm not saying following up every day for 12 days. That's obnoxious in your face. But
Right.
if you can follow up quarterly, that 5th to 12th time, that's where the 80% of sales happen there. So you have to be, my follow-up is called CPR follow-up. It's consistent, persistent, respectful CPR follow-up. And I think that's important. And if they do want to buy my book, I think the Kindle version's like $6.99. I have charts in there about the CPR follow-up, actually how to do it.
Awesome. Yes, I was just going to get to that. So Connie's website is whitmanassoc.com. And I'll link to all this in the show notes. But the book, I assume, is also on Amazon.
Yes, on Amazon. And also you could go through my website too.
Okay. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. So awesome. All right. So now it's time for this part of the show where we talk about the songs. As you know, I pick a song I pick an intro and outro song that kind of go with whatever the topic is that we're talking about. So Connie picked the songs this week, and the intro song was Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield. So do you want to share your thoughts on this song?
Yeah, I just feel like if everybody takes a step back, no matter what yesterday was, doesn't matter. It's done. It's done. You can't go back. Tomorrow, it's unwritten, right? Tomorrow you can write your verse, your version, your chapter tomorrow. So think about what you want, and you can create anything you want. You have the power to do it. It's unwritten.
For sure. And I hadn't listened to the song for a long time, and I listened to it again, and I knew the song, but I don't think I'd ever listened to the words. And one of the verse that struck me was when it says, "Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins." I love that.
So
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so our outro song is "Every Kind of People" by Robert Palmer.
Yes.
Tell
That
me your
shows my
thoughts on that.
age.
I knew
He's
the
my-
song. Yeah, I knew the song.
I know. I was so impressed that you knew that. So every kind of people, my fear is that with everything that's going on in the world today, especially in the United States, that it really takes every kind of person, human. And when you cut us, we all bleed. We all have the same intestines. We all have the same anatomy. It doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't matter what your political view. It doesn't matter the skin color. We are truly all kinds of people. And I think we need to look at human to human and put all the other crap aside. Because at the end of the day, what do we want? We want to be happy. We want to be productive. We want our kids to be safe. We want a life that's beautiful, right? So it doesn't matter. All the other stuff is BS.
All right. And so the lyrics I copied were in the chorus, "It takes every kind of people to make what life's about, every kind of people to make the world go round." And I think this goes back to what we talked about just a few minutes ago about both, we don't all have to agree, but we all get to have our thoughts and our opinions on XYZ, whatever it is, right? And we're never going to get somebody to change their opinion by screaming at them. That just isn't the way it works. So I think that, I love the song too. I think the message is especially relevant for now. So
I do. Yeah.
All right. So Connie, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week. It's been awesome to talk to you again. And again, congratulations on your book. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And I hope your listeners found some value today.
Yes, I'm sure they did.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yes. All right. Awesome. All right. So that's it for this week on our topic of selling you on you. I would love to know what you think of the episode. You can email me, sloanfremont@gmail.com. My website is my website is sloanfremont.com. See, I'm one-legged bird right there. I was going too fast. I'm going to use that now. Also, all right, I got to get back on my thoughts here. So you can find me on Instagram, Sloan Fremont. And if you like the podcast, please remember, subscribe, rate, review, and tell all your friends. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening this week, and I will talk to you next week.
Ooh, take